Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I would like to talk about how to actually do the writing. Of course, there's plenty of advice out there from people who do this full-time, from professional writers. I'm not one of those people. I'm someone who has to write around her other work. So what I find very convenient and very important is to have certain tricks that make me actually sit down and do my writing consistently. I'll talk about this a bit more later, but like other people, I disagree with the idea that you have to write every day. Would that be ideal? I don't know. Probably, maybe. I think for me, for example, it would be pretty ideal because that would mean that I can get into the universe that I'm creating and I can stay there for as long as I'm developing the story. I think that would keep me more focused. I think other people, other kinds of writers can probably benefit from taking breaks from being in that world, that universe that they have created. But either way, if that's not something you can do in this moment, we will all be able to do it when we become best-selling authors, which is going to happen soon, of course. But if it's not the case for you right now, the same way it's not for me, maybe one of these can help you, or maybe, yeah, just like listen to me ramble if that's what you'd like to do today with your time. You can also stop watching and go writing, but in case you're lacking a little bit of the motivation for that, maybe the video will help you. Let me know. The first tip that I would like to address is to bribe yourself. What do I mean by this? Writing is hard. And a lot of the time it's not as enjoyable as people want you to believe. I wish it was. Maybe it is for them. For me, it's not. There's a lot of times where I'm absolutely concerned that I'm doing something wrong, that I'm thinking this is garbage, I shouldn't be doing this, I should do something else with my life. There are other times where I just can't find the inspiration or the motivation, and you can't only write when you're inspired or motivated, or else you'll never finish a novel if that's what you're going for. I don't know, maybe you're capable of that. Maybe I'm making like wild generalizations here that don't apply to other people, but they do apply to me. Are they generalizations then, if they only apply to me in the whole of the universe and other universes? It's that kind of day, I see. So what do I mean by bribe yourself? Starting from the idea that writing can be one of the best activities ever, but it isn't always, I would say throw something nice in it. This is not super groundbreaking, but it works really well for me. In this case, bring a tea, a coffee, a snack, light a candle if you like that kind of thing. I think candles kind of distract me more than anything. I just start staring into the depth of the flame and stop writing because I just can't. If I say fire, I look at the fire. That's just the kind of person I am. But yeah, just throw something nice into the mix to make it less painful, because sometimes it can be painful. Of course, if you're enjoying the moment and like having the best writing of your life, do as you please. Don't drink a tea, don't drink a coffee. Be a miserable person if you want. Because why wouldn't you have a warm or cold beverage next to you if you can? I don't know why you would do that. The second one is still in this realm of bribery, and it's to reward yourself after you've done the task. Also, you don't need to be writing for a million years. I don't currently have the time or the energy or the mood or I have nothing. I got nothing here. When I can write, I can write for about 20 minutes. So I would say to give yourself like a little reward, like a little prize, like a little something that makes you happy afterwards. For example, if I manage to complete a chapter or a good writing session, the next thing I'm going to do these days at least is play Animal Crossing, because that's the single most enjoyable thing that I can think about right now, because I'm having like a late obsession with Animal Crossing. I know everyone was obsessed with it around 2020. I don't know. I got there now. This is kind of connected to the next trick that I use, which is to just write 5 words, or just write for 5 minutes, or just write a line or a paragraph. The idea is to make the goal so ridiculously small that it's almost harder not to do it than to do it. Writing 5 words takes a second. They don't need to be good words. They don't even need to be related to the story that you're currently working on. They don't need to be anything. The only need here is to sit down and write them, or write them standing. Do whatever. Write them while handstanding. Do whatever you want. Just do it. The fun little trick about this trick is that it's very hard to only write 5 words. If you write 5 words, you're most likely going to be like stopped in the middle of the sentence or in the middle of the line, and you're going to want to continue. And if you continue and finish that sentence, you're probably going to want to go on with it. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes there's not going to be. I think it's very, very likely that you end up writing a few hundred words at the very least. At least that's what happens to me, because for so many of us, like in many other things in life, what's hardest is to start. And once you've started, that resistance isn't there anymore. You've done the hardest thing, which was convincing yourself to sit down and start doing the writing. Once you're there, you're probably so engaged in the story, the characters, and the universe, and everything that you've created, because you probably like this idea that you've had, that you just don't want to stop. You just want to keep going. That being said, if there are days that you're feeling off, or you don't have time, or really the only thing you can make yourself do is write 5 words, stop after that. Check it off the list. It's done. You did it. Good job. And go play Animal Crossing, please, I beg you. The next one I'm sure you've heard in many, many places if you like this kind of content, but I think it's a very good one. Build a writing routine. And it doesn't need to be a daily routine, like I said, but just try and automate the steps so that your brain doesn't have to think about it. Your brain's just going to be like, yeah, the next thing we have to do today is sit down and write. And because that's just what we do. The same way that before going to bed, you're going to brush your teeth, you're going to get in your jammies, you're going to do whatever it is that you do. And when you wake up in the morning, you're going to have a shower, you're going to have your breakfast, all of those things. You don't have to think about them that much. Except I do. I have to think about every single step I take. I think the key for routines to stick, at least for people like me who aren't great at routines, is to attach a ritual to it. So for example, what I'm doing right now is I try and wake up a little earlier than I need to, just a little bit. I'm not a morning person. Then I will go out to the balcony because it's really, really hot and I need a little bit of fresh air, and then I will make a coffee. I will play Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing seems to be very present in this video that is not about Animal Crossing, but that's okay. And then I will collect all of my objects, all of the peaches, all of the flowers, and because I cannot go and sell them at the shop because the shop doesn't open until 8 a.m. and I have to wake up before 8 a.m., I'm basically compelled to stop playing Animal Crossing, put down the Switch, and start writing. And that's just what I do. At this point, I don't even question it anymore. I'm calling it like an established routine, even though I've been doing it for only 3 weeks, but I would say that's a moderate success. 3 weeks is better than 0 weeks. So that's the idea. I don't even question it anymore. I just finish playing and then I write. And then I only write for 20 minutes, but hey, that's something. That's good. That's good enough, I think. The next trick that I have is actually contradicting the previous one, the one that I just said. Forget about rituals. Try and write anywhere at any time of the day. Try not to need these very specific conditions that if the situation doesn't meet them, you cannot write. That was a very complicated sentence. So write in a random place, write while you're commuting, write on your phone, write on a notebook, even if you usually prefer typing, write on the airplane, write like everywhere. I think this is an important step to try and remove this aura of mysticism that exists around writing as an activity, because it's kind of hard to write consistently if you can only write in this very specific place with this very specific candle and this very specific tea, and it has to be a gloomy rainy day, which by the way today is a beautiful gloomy rainy day and it's perfect for writing. And I'm telling myself that as soon as I finish recording this video I'm gonna run and start writing. Probably not. Probably I'm gonna do some procrastination cleaning. I'm gonna play Animal Crossing because but hey, we're all hypocrites sometimes. So let me keep telling you about these tricks for writing while I don't write. Of course, I'm not telling you to forget about these beautifully crafted rituals that make writing very, very pleasant to do. Like my first point was make it pleasant, make it nice, by bringing a tea or a pastry or whatever you like, or a candle or this cute little lamp, anything that makes you happy while doing the writing. But I think it's also great to learn to do it without all of our favorite things. Especially if this is especially important for a novelist or for aspiring novelist, because novels are really long and like I was saying earlier, they are sometimes painful to make. The middles are difficult, draft after draft. You might be tired of working on the same story even though you love it to bits. So at least for me, if I only sit down and write when the conditions are perfect, I will very rarely sit and write. And the last trick that I wanted to mention is to change hats depending on in which moment of the process you are. In, I don't know. For me, for example, in the first draft, I need to believe that this is the best book that anyone's ever going to read, that I'm the voice of a generation, that the world needs to read this book or else it will implode. The reason for that is that it is so hard. I know I keep saying that. Why do you write if it's so hard? Because I love it. Because I need to do it. Do you not understand? Of course you understand. That's why you're watching this video. But it is difficult. It's very challenging, and it takes a long time if what you're writing is a novel. Especially if you're going for one of these like insanely long, epic, high fantasy, absurdly great 1,000 million pages sagas. It's gonna take a while. It's very unlikely that you are very happy, very energized, very positive, and very confident 100% of the time you're going to be writing that book or editing that book. So the way I think about it is that it's already a difficult thing to do if you're very confident. So this is not the moment to be doubting yourself. This is not the moment to be overly critical with yourself. Of course, I'm more of a discovery writer, so this is the moment where I just have to trust my gut and go chase the story. It probably works differently if you're more of a plotter. So if you're a person who prefers to outline the story before sitting down to write it. But for me, at least, this is how it works. Then in other phases of the process, for example, in the editing bit, I change that hat and put on a very critical hat that is, in my case in particular, that of a very impatient reader. So in case you hadn't noticed yet, I tend to ramble. I have a tendency as a writer to over-explain. My characters take unnecessary detours. All of these kinds of things that you can accept in a first draft, but you have to trim and you have to cut and you have to polish as drafts go by. If I was this critical reader when I am writing my first draft, I would simply just not write the book. And the book would never exist because I would be doubting myself every step of the way. But if I am this very confident, full of herself person when I'm editing, I will not bring the book to the standard that it should get to. In the same kind of way, when you're polishing the last little few bits of the story, when you're looking for language excellence and you're looking for beautiful metaphors and small little details that are what make it truly a well perfected artwork, you should probably not be an impatient reader. You should probably be more of an artisan, someone who can forget about the plot and forget about the character arcs and forget about the big structural parts of it and just focus on the nitty-gritty and focus on making that image very evocative and making that metaphor really hit. Of course, these are all very subjective ideas, but they all work for me, and I have been thinking about them and developing them in my head since I started writing more consistently, which was probably like about 3 years ago. Interestingly, it was when I started being more and more busy, and that's when I had to create some sort of structure. So these are just some thoughts and ideas about things that work for me, but I would really love to hear more from you and to see what works for you and what little systems you've invented for yourself that make it a lot easier to sit down and do the writing. Nothing more from me today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on literally anything, and you have any ideas of videos that you would like me to make. This is me pointing at the comment section. I don't know how to do this yet. Give me time. I hope you get a lot of writing done, and I'll see you next time. Bye!